Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm Deanna. This is Dr. Thomas. We're so glad to have you here with us tonight. We are recording live, so I encourage you, if you are listening and you are there, say hi in the comments, say hi in the chat, ask us questions, because that's what we're here to do, is to have a good interaction, to really talk about the important things and to discuss. Dr. Thomas, how
Good
are you doing
interactions
today?
and talk about things. It's
Yeah,
just good to do that.
yeah, go figure. Go figure.
All that good stuff. But no, feel free to put your name in the chat, whether on replay or live, so we know you're there. And if your name's not clear, say your full, write your name so we can say hey to you. Because sometimes the name isn't like a very clear thing. Like Cassidy, hi Cassidy. Your name isn't Cassidy, but it says Cassidy because you wrote hey, it's Cassidy. So it always works a little bit easier when you do that.
Yes, absolutely. And I can see the chat here if anyone has questions. Hi, Cassidy. Hi, Musings of a Tadpole.
So we have Andrew, we have Chris. I feel like it's like romper room back in the day.
Yeah,
I see Andrea. I see Chris. I see Cassidy. Yay! All the good stuff.
next time I'll bring a looking glass and we can really get all romper room.
Yes.
So tonight, it sounds like we were going to talk a little bit about alignment and about peace and how everything is a lot closer than we believe. I mean, when we think about the chaotic times, or we just think about the shift in the energy that's going on, right? We're having the changing of the year from the snake to the fire horse, and the shedding of skin that goes along with a snake as it moves and evolves. And we're having planetary alignments, which I'm not the best about, but if anybody listening knows, please put that in the chat. And it's a lot going on, and it can make it pretty hard to sometimes see that there is a light ahead of us. Sometimes it's hard to see where the path is when there's so much stuff thrown in the way. So it sounds like that's kind of what we're going to talk about, and where we're going to go. So, Dr. Thomas, how would you like to
Well, I
start?
mean, sounds like that, but you'll see.
Right.
See, where's Stacia when we need her? Come on with all of her astrology stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I was hoping she might be listening.
We actually, the beauty of everything that's around. And hi to Amber and hi to Lisa. The beauty that everything is around is there's so many different truths. That's what we need to understand. There are so many different truths and so many different things that are all true and all align, like astrology, like channeling, like mediums, like fairies, and blah 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 and all that stuff, and the different religions. I'll throw that in there too. There's truth in all of it because it all is a search for truth, but it's about what resonates with you. And one of the biggest things that we like to say, it was me, you. One of the biggest things we like to say is we go back to the simplest things you can possibly think of. It's all about who you are and living your life with this intention of love. If and when you do that, it trumps everything else. Yes, going to the astrology, you've come in, you were born at the day, month, time that you wanted it to be to align with how that astrology impacts you in this life. However, it only impacts you to the point of which you believe it.
Yep.
How you believe and act is based upon how your intentions are. And if your intentions are pure and out of love, and you can move up past all that, and you start losing those restrictions, those limitations. I often say to people, when they say, "What are you?" I'm like, "Well, I'm an enlightened Scorpio." I hate the word enlightened, but I'm an enlightened Scorpio because I can adjust to whatever needs for the situation that I'm in. I can be a Scorpio. Yes, I can be a Scorpio. Trust me. But I can fit and work with everyone. because I don't see myself as a Scorpio. I don't follow and align myself with a lot that's going on. And people talk about all this solar flares and this and that and that. Wonderful. Yes, they can definitely. There's human resonance. Yes, they can all go towards something that can impact you if you believe in it to explain things.
Right.
But you can overcome it all. That's the neat thing about this when it comes all together. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. Yeah, shit, I didn't think. Yeah,
Well, we just went off on another tangent then.
I always
Welcome
do.
to.
How about
Mhm.
shit? But you said something in the beginning that's important for everyone to understand, because you don't. Most people do not understand this. January 1st is only that of a date of a change of a year. It's a number change, it's a date change, it's a arbitrary pick. It's not the growth. It's actually the time to start really releasing things if you haven't released them all yet. Really, between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, that's when you really begin to shape what's going to happen to you next. And this is the month out of most months that there are that there really is a difference and an impact based upon who you are. Because this is the time when you really start releasing. You have to get it going so you can actually start planting what you want to have happen this year. This is the month and the time. But we're not going to talk about that either. So we're going to talk about a real story, because we are. Because a lot of people have been worried about this, and you see it, all right, okay? You see it. You see the Epstein files. You see what Trump has done here. You hear about the wars in here, the invasions here. You hear about this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that. And everyone's like, oh, the world's coming to an end again. Ah. The war is over. Oh my goodness, it feels so good. The war was never what you thought it was. The war between the light and the dark, the low and the high vibration, was never a war. It was actually an agreement. That is what is misunderstood by so many, but that is what we need to hear in a linear human existence. We need to hear that to understand things and why they work the way they do. But we say to you, the truth is there never was a war, but there was an agreement. And the agreement has changed. To take this into context, when the earth is first opened up and first here, it is open to all species of aliens that come in based upon the human race to populate, influence, and build the planet. Because the planet is here a free state planet. Free choice, free all. So accordingly, it's open. Now it's control. Now we say the word control, but the controls make sense for you, but it's not really controlled. It is created and it is watched over by the Syrians. Well, the Palladians created the Syrians are their grandparents. They watch over them too. Okay, the Syrians and Palladians work in cohesion with this. Palladians with the lead. Well, that doesn't mean there's only races that are here. Because the purpose, as we've said many times, the purpose of this planet is to create unbiased love. And the only way to do that is with free choice. The only way to have free choice is to open it up completely. Until the time comes when the vibration of the planet is at a point where there is no return. And we have already set the standard in place to go past the 3D into the 5D and beyond. Because when you hit the 5D, you really are then very open from 5 to 10. 11 and 12 are different. And so, the planet itself, the triune arrow with the species on here, was in what we will call, for your sake, a battle between light and dark. It's an agreement. There are species out there that are very high in vibration, very loving, very light. In fact, all species are. However, when they go into the physical form on the planet, they become lower vibrational for the purpose of the planet's sake. I know you've not been told stuff like that before. We're sharing that now because it's part of it. The purpose, once again, is to create unbiased love. And the only way to do that, if you said many times to many people, is by teaching and giving by example what it is to be on both ends of the spectrum, so you as a species and a consciousness in those bodies will choose love over hate, mindfulness over worry, peace over anger and fear. You have to choose that, and you have to understand the one to choose the other. So we go back. We're going to go back a little bit. That took us there to take us here, and the shifts all happened. We're not going to explain that. We're going to let Tim say it. A few years ago, a few years ago, I was in the middle of the light versus the dark, the low versus the high, however you see it, however you want it to be. And it was almost exactly 4 years ago to these days that I went through something. Now, leading up to that, I had seen things you should not see. Things you do not want to see because they are out there. But it was the start in this day 4 years ago, around now, where things really shifted. And I remember laying in my bed one night when I got the first text message, basically spelling out that I had something bad around me again. It wasn't just around me, though. The crazy part is, once I was told that, I reached out to something else, reached out to a couple people, and things started really changing to a point that a few days later I was there. I was getting a Reiki 2 attunement, and I could hear it. And I rarely hear things. But when it was all said and done, the person doing the healing, doing the attunement for me, was out in the corner, and her eyes were wide. And she looked at me and goes, "I've never seen that before in my life." She goes, "These beings that were around you, these beautiful white beings, and the light that was shining out was absolutely incredible. And they were just destroying all this darkness that was there, not just here, but all throughout. Like, almost like Voldemort, and just like these little things just flipping away, like the Horcruxes or whatever they're called, just going away." She'd never seen that before. I had never experienced that before. It was my first time actually working with the Syrians. Because the next day I saw one of my mentors. And I was explaining that story, and she literally looked at me and pointed to the picture on the wall and says, "That's who it was." And it was the Syrians. I had another thing happen that month that was just incredible, but it was the start of that. All right, this light versus dark, and I can't tell you how many things I've taken off people and things I've about that, because there was a battle between the light and the dark going on, because we were in this state of transition. and the dark wanted to, for our sake, continue its power that had built for centuries upon centuries. It did not matter, though, because the light had already won. And I'm saying the one for our words. So this week, once again, another thing happened to me. Something happened to me in my personal life. And leading up to it, I've had many downloads. So all of a sudden, I had a recurrence from what happened to me 4 years ago, almost to the day. And there's no need to go into the details of how the communication, all this stuff happened to me. But what I can say is this. As I sat there on the ground, back against the wall, once again I could feel this time myself, this huge, strong energy of the light coming in. This energy, this light was just like ushering in. But what happened next was quite unexpected. There I was. Standing to my right and to my left was a row of tall white beings with little blue auras around them. They were the Syrians that I work often with now. And they were standing in attention, standing tall and proper with me between the row of them. But what happened next was in front of me. Out from the distance came another tall being. But this one was not white, but dark. This black figure, very tall, with like a flamey orangish reddish aura around them, stepped forward. And behind him, which would be several 100 feet behind, were the minions of them. And my first instinct, as it always has been, was, okay, who's going to go after it? Because normally they go after it. But they weren't moving. In fact, that being that was walking towards me stopped in like the middle of the battlefield. The Syrians were all looking at me, standing proper, unmoving. So I first walked forward. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I started taking on this thing. And it didn't move, but it shed its cloak and everything, and it turned into this white being. Just like the ones behind me. But then it cloaked back up. It was back to where it was. This happened a couple times, and I couldn't figure out why. But then I kept on realizing there's an agreement. Not only that, so I tested it. And I walked into the lines of the beings. And as I walked past them, with their black and their reddish yellow auras around them, I was this white bubble. And I walked past them all, and it's almost like they stepped back with a reverence. They never touched me. They never went after me. They never did anything except for stand there in reverence to that which was happening. And it's at that point I went back to the being in the center of the field. And it's at that point I knew the agreement was in play. We must understand free choice again. Free choice means there will always be a low, dark vibration around. However, we are 95% love and light. It's not 50-50. It's 90-95 to 5, then maybe 10%. That's how it is. So if we walk in love and light, with reverence, they will leave us alone. It's the agreement. But if we choose to leave the love and light, they are allowed to interfere. Should we choose it? It's our choice. It is now our choice. Because we must understand that they are just high frequency vibrational beings wearing cloaks for the sake of humanity's growth. They are not here to shut us down. They are not here to cause fear. They are not here to doom the planet. They are the same as those light beings that we see, that we feel are guides. They are all one and the same. But they have the purpose to help us create the unbiased love. But there is nothing to fear. For they are now here just to help. And they cannot lower the vibration. We have moved forward. And the crazy thing is, I can hold out my hand. And they can be there in love. Because they hold that love too. We are entering the end of this transition period. And this is the end of the war that we've been talked about and told about between light and dark. Because a new agreement is in place. Peace, love, and joy will prevail very easily if you choose it in your heart. There's nothing that can stop you. Okay. Hi. So, yes, if you understand what we just spoke about. Any questions?
I see a question here that says, darkness is light that is cloaked through our free will choice to live in or out of love.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes. It is our choice. We don't have to live in love, but we can. And at any point, we can switch it over to the love. And so we do not need to fear. Like, here's what it led up to this. Like the 2 days before this happened, he was in the, I know, you got me, all right, I was in my sauna, and both times something weird happened. And my first thoughts were, oh my goodness, something's around me that shouldn't be around me. But it is not that way anymore. That's why they had to show it to me this way. That's why they had to take off their cloaks. I was sick, and I saw that they are purely light. They just put it on. It doesn't mean they're here to fear or haunt or hurt or do anything evil or deceitful that you have always thought and people have told you about. Trust me, that's how it was. The old agreement was that way, that they fed off it and they built deceit and evil things because it was they fed off of, and it's what the planet needed. But it is not that way anymore. You can ask for it and you will get it. It is your choice. But it has to be your choice. It has to be your choice. It didn't have to be your choice anymore before. Now it has to be your choice. And if you believe those things are going to happen to you, then they can step in and make them happen to you because you're choosing it. But you can at any point say, no, I acknowledge you here and I love you here. There's no destroying them, no piecing them off, no sending off the light anymore. They are already light. You just have to hold the light yourself. You hold light now. Don't hold the darkness. Don't put the black obsidian around you. You don't need that. You hold the light up and you shine it out. You must rethink all that. Because we are pure light. They are pure light. The beings around us are pure light. We are all pure light. But in this planet, we have free choice. So they must have the cloak around them to act in that way, should you choose for that to be. Makes sense. Yes, Lisa can't touch us like MC Hammer. Do. No, yes. It doesn't. No, Monia, they can touch. I literally just held out my hand and he held my hand. And when he did, he turned into light. Because they are light. And I choose to invite them in with light. Because that is their true natural form. But when we fear them, then they draw off the fear. We control them. We control it all. That is the agreement. That is the agreement. Wow, yeah. Okay, any other questions people have? Or are they like, wait, what's going on here?
I think we're all singing still, to be honest.
Yes.
Somebody says, I apologize, I can't scroll up enough to see what your name is, but you have another question that others may resonate with. So feel free to ask it. Feel free to pose it here.
Yes, Chris, you can ask any question you want. Amber Lee, I know you're on here too. You had questions before we got on here. You can feel free to ask any question you want to while we're here, because we are here. Does everyone know you heard how we answer? We're not giving lotto numbers. That does not in our vibration. We're not giving names. It's not in our vibration. But in the last few weeks, he wrote, I have felt as if I'm being pulled through the eye of a needle. And all the stuff that won't fit coming through, the surface will be cleared. It doesn't have to fit through. That's the key. You think you need to fit everything you're carrying through, but you don't. You think you do, but you don't. He will be the he mentioned the this has happened multiple times to him, and it's happened in this month. And in fact, he has always said February was a bad month, and bad things happened until this time. Last year he changed it to, oh, it's going to be a good month, and this happened. And he's like, no, it doesn't mean it's a bad month. It means I had to release this. I had to let this go because I already got what I needed without knowing it, but I wanted to hold on to it. But if I held on to it, I wouldn't have gone through that needle because I couldn't carry it through. But to go through that needle, I had to let it all go. So that way this could happen. So that I can step forward. Oh my goodness, the energy is much stronger. I can step forward in a whole different way than I was even a week ago. We don't want to let things go. We're taught not to let things go. We're taught to be hoarders in that sense. Letting people go, letting things go, doing something different. We have to make room for what's coming. We've got to fit through that eye of the needle so that way we can replenish what we now need in the right way. Lisa, not just sometimes, almost all the time. We don't even realize it. We have to let things go so we can move forward and be where we're meant to be. We have choice. Don't get me wrong. We have 100% choice. We can choose to hold on. We can choose different paths. But when we do those choices, it impacts where we go. And sometimes, strike that, many times we don't know what the right path truly is. Because we expect one thing. And that's not what it was supposed to be. Listen, I'll be very blunt. There have been multiple people I've met in this journey that I know for a fact could have been lifelong partners of mine. I know for a freaking fact. How? Because they told me that. But choice is in play. And I'll say for a fact with myself, I've said this many times, not knowing the repercussions of what that choice would be, but never regretting it. I've said many times, my first choice is the path that I've chosen. This path that I'm on right now, that I'm talking to you about, was the path I choose. So there have been people that have come into my life that have been absolutely. I know the signs I get. But if they're not ready for that type of path, they can't handle that path. That's okay. It's perfectly okay. For myself, I know around the corner will be someone else that can carry with me on that path. Hey, when it is, it is. I chose my path. And that's what I chose. Lisa, you say here, I've been feeling sometimes the need to change, and my head is keeping me from doing it. Oh, my honey, that is more true than you really ever will realize. We want to carry that baggage with us. We want to carry it out because we have that fear of the unknown, the fear of what happens when we drop it off. What happens when we let it go? What will people think? Oh my goodness, what will replace it? How could I ever replace this? But instead of that thought, oh, I can't wait to see what will replace this. I can't wait to see what's going to be next. Oh my goodness, how is going to happen? I don't know, but it's going to be phenomenal. That's the key. I can't explain how things have happened to me in some way. These random things that have happened. They're not random. They're synchronized. I created them. But how they happened, oh my goodness, I can't. I trust me when I say very few things have ever happened to me in the way anyone would expect. Especially these past 6 years. Very, very few things have happened in the traditional way you would expect. They all have these weird twists and turns. They're like, holy cow, how did this happen? It happened this way? It's not right. That's not real. Oh my goodness. But it is. And that's a beautiful thing. Then it shows you, you know how it happened.
I think what you said is important too, because a lot of times we put our expectations onto how things ought to be or how things should be, rather than allow ourselves to flow with how things really are. And you're a great example of just being willing to make that your path and have these things happen to you in ways that you don't expect, and which I think are ultimately more powerful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Before we close it off, anybody else have any other questions? Shambadi Rashidiki and the Karashidiki and the Radashiti. Yes, Lisa, removing the should in the expectations.
Yep.
So with that, I think we're good. Just remember to hold that peace. Hold that peace. Be mindful. Be very mindful. And wonderful things will happen. It's been a while. We ready to say goodnight?
Do we want to do a quick meditation before we sign off?
That's up to you.
Yeah, let's go for it.
A very short one.
A very short one.
What we will do is separate meditations because that's different than this. Do.
I encourage everybody to get into a position of comfort. Take some nice, deep, slow breath. Put your hand on your heart and remind yourself who you are, where you came from, and remind yourself of the knowingness that you're going somewhere beautiful, that you're traveling on a path. Allow your mind free reign. Bring into your imagination, into your consciousness, into your being, who you are, where you are. Hold on to the belief. Hold on to the knowing that even if the path isn't clear or even if the path is taking turns, that you don't expect. Hold on to the knowing and the faith that it's going where it's meant to go. Enjoy it, learn from it, live from it, love from it. Bring in all the experiences, build your spirit, build your soul with the knowledge, with the lessons, with the experiences. Let go of the shoulds. Close your eyes, relax into it, knowing that you are covered and carried and held by the universe, and that the helpers are always there, always around you, anytime you need it. And just breathe.